Good morning, Ferri Middle School. Today is Day B. The order of the periods is 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence.
Please be seated. And now to today's history, sports, and weather.
Temperatures this morning, we have our first very minor snowfall of the season headed our way this afternoon. It's going to start off as rain as temperatures are in the 50s this morning. During the afternoon, the temperatures drop very quickly and that light rain will change over to a period of light snowfall. It wraps up around the time of the evening commute, but we could see some slower travel for a couple of hours. It's going to mainly melt along the roadway. As we look at our 9 o'clock forecast, you can see a cold front approaching. That strong front's going to bring that period of rainfall. And as the cold air drains in behind it, that brief change over to some snow. So this is 3 o'clock in the afternoon, winding down during the late afternoon and early evening with clearing skies behind it. As far as any snowfall amounts go, looking very minor, just a little dusting in most locations by the time we hit the late afternoon hours. Then what follows? Some bitter cold air. We're going to see lows falling to around 18 tonight. Wind chills in the single digits tomorrow morning, a high of 31 in the afternoon.
Green Airport is redefining hassle-free travel.
Local colleges. That's the case for Shea graduate Mamadou Mbai, who has blossomed into one of the best football players in the CAA conference at Rhode Island. JP Smallins has more with this week's Hometown Hero.
His 5 interceptions have him ranked.
Hi, I'm Alicia Fortunati.
And I'm Alessandra Zari.
And you're watching Ferri Live. Today's lunch is scheduled as the following. First lunch is 6 blue and 6 white. Second lunch is 8 blue. Third lunch is 8 white. And fourth lunch is 7 blue and 7 white. Today's lunch special is chicken drumsticks with herb roasted local potatoes, sweet and spicy green beans, chicken Philly cheesesteak, and sauteed peppers and onions. Today's quote of the day is by an unknown author. Stop planting flowers in people's yards who aren't going to water them. We are asking for every student to please give your clean styrofoam trays to the members of the green team every lunch. Yes, every lunch. If it is clean, please keep it clean and do the right thing. Your Earth and the green team, thank you. Good morning. At the beginning of last week, we started to transition to the Ferri Live program on YouTube Live. Mr. Pistacco has sent the link for students and teachers to subscribe. Students can watch directly on their lone device after subscribing. Teachers can also display live by Chromecast or direct wire HDMI on their screen. The YouTube channel is JPS YouTube. This item was found throughout the building. If it is yours, please claim it in the library as soon as possible. And now to Alessandra.
Thank you, Alicia. Today's joke of the day is for me. Thanks. What did the man say when he wanted to make a percussion sandwich?
What?
Drum roll, please. Today's fun fact is pumpkin spice is mostly made of cinnamon.
Interesting.
Didn't know that. The Scholastic Book Fair is here in November. The dates are Thursday, November 21st, Friday, November 22nd, and Monday, November 25th. Lots of great book titles and gift ideas will be there for sale. Attention students and teachers, there's a joke submission box in the library. If you would like to submit a joke for Ferri Live, please bring it down to this blue submission box. Thank you. Ferri, forever educating responsible individuals. That's all for today.
I'm Alicia Fortunati. We'll have more to see you next time.
Till then, have a terrific Tuesday.
Welcome one, welcome all to CNN 10. This is your objective explanation of world events, and I'm your anchor, Carl Azus, hoping your week is going well so far. Bolivia is the scene of today's first story. The South American country is in the middle of a political crisis following the resignation of its president early this week. And leaders around South America are trying to help Bolivia chart a path toward new elections. Former President Evo Morales was first elected in 2005. He was re-elected in 2009 and 2014, and his political party, the Movement Towards Socialism Party, kept control of the government's legislature as well. That helped former President Morales push through the laws he wanted. In October of this year, he ran again for president, and while it looked like he was ahead of his opponent in the early results, there were problems with the vote count. Opposition parties said it had been changed to benefit the incumbent president, and on Sunday, election monitors published a report saying there were serious irregularities with the vote count that had an impact on the results. The former leader and his allies in Latin America say a coup forced him out of power. There have been numerous coups and counter-coups in Bolivian history. But the nation's opposition parties say this is a fight for democracy and peace. It's not clear yet who will be the next person to lead Bolivia. Everyone who is next in line to the presidency has resigned.
A political earthquake has rocked Bolivia after the country's long-serving, staunch leftist president, Evo Morales, was forced to step down. It's been weeks of violent protests and allegations that Morales had stolen an election to become president for a fourth term. Morales had denied that and said that he was facing a coup. But after a report came out showing widespread fraud, Morales finally on Sunday offered to hold new elections. The offer came too late, though, for the country's opposition, for the military and the police, many of whom had risen up against Morales. The head of the military said on Sunday it was time for Morales to leave office. And with hours, Morales did just that, shocking Bolivia and much of Latin America. He said that it was a coup that was forcing him for power, but that he recognized that if he didn't leave, there would be bloodshed, and he wanted to avoid that. Many of Morales' critics said that he'd become too authoritarian, that he was never planning on leaving the presidency, and that he was essentially becoming a dictator. Several countries have offered Evo Morales asylum. He says he's not going anywhere. He may be out of power, but he's remaining in Bolivia.
10-second trivia. What is the third largest island in the world behind Greenland and New Guinea? Borneo, Madagascar, Great Britain, or Cuba? Borneo, which is divided between Brunei, Indonesia, and Malaysia, is the world's third largest island. 75% of the island used to be covered by rainforest, according to the Smithsonian, but a significant chunk of that, experts in Indonesia plans to build its new capital there. Parts have been cleared by logging, parts have been burned and replaced by palm plantations. Ivan Watson takes us to Indonesian Borneo, the largest part of the island, to explore some of the many reasons why it's changing.
A grinding battle deep in the jungle. Firefighters on the Indonesian island of Borneo struggle to control a forest fire that threatens a national park.
This is just brutal work they're doing here.
Toxic smoke in the tropical heat.
We are fighting here almost 2 weeks already. In here, stay in here, sleep in here.
The rainforests in Indonesia are burning. Firefighters handling this blaze for weeks.
They're fighting on the ground and in the air.
These are aerial firefighters, and right now we're on a water bombing mission.
Helicopters dump giant buckets full of water on the flames.
Bombs away!
Firefighters say this crisis was ignited by man.
From the fire coming, I think, from the human. Yeah.
Humans started this.
Yes, of course.
An unusually dry summer fueled this inferno, visible from space. The haze engulfed cities in neighboring countries like Singapore and Malaysia, while in Indonesia, the smog closed airports and schools, creating apocalyptic skies.
Yes, sometimes it feels like science fiction.
This doctor saw panicked civilians flood his hospital. Indonesian authorities estimate about 1 million people suffered respiratory problems.
Be grateful to the air that we have that is not toxic like this, because not everyone can enjoy a fresh air.
The forest fires also threatening one of Asia's last great rainforests, home to orangutans, symbols of an ecosystem under threat.
This is Poppy, and she's a 1-year-old example of one of the world's most endangered species. Right now, she's attending a class in jungle school.
Poppy.
Activists from the Center for Orangutan Protection take orphaned animals and teach them to survive, and hopefully one day return them to the wild. As Borneo's rainforests shrink, the orangutan population has plummeted.
The threat is deforestation, maybe because of illegal logging or like conversion of the forest to the make building or something by human, and also for the forest burning.
These activists also rescue and relocate orangutans stranded by mass deforestation. The clash between man and nature on display when an ape confronts the heavy machinery ripping down its home. And this is what's replacing much of Borneo's jungle. Sprawling plantations of palm trees, Indonesia's most lucrative cash crop. Palm fruit like this makes a vegetable oil used in around half of all household products sold in your neighborhood grocery store. As palm oil exports ballooned over the last 20 years, so did the Indonesian territory used to grow palms. It's now bigger than entire countries like England or Greece.
It's now way out of our control in Indonesia.
Even this industry insider is calling for stricter government regulation of the palm oil industry.
If we just do it halfway, we should always expect this forest and land fire in the future.
But this cash crop has also lifted millions of Indonesians out of poverty. People like this farmer. Before I grew palms, I couldn't even afford to feed my children chicken, he tells me. Farming palm, I've been able to buy a TV and a refrigerator. The cheapest way to clear land for farming is to burn it. The government says it's trying to crack down on these man-made fires.
For us, the forest fire is a serious crime.
Officials show me how they use thermal satellite imagery to detect fires to then prosecute palm oil companies. They say they've opened cases against 21 companies in the last 4 years. But some activists fear it's too little, too late.
We need the price for life, so please protect the price.
Ramadani is trying to reintroduce a rescued orangutan named Michelle to the wild. But the island halfway house where she now lives is in the shadow of a growing coal mine. Yet another industry, yet another threat. Michelle's protectors fear that in 20 years' time, there may be no forests left for these incredible animals. Ivan Watson, CNN, Indonesian Borneo.
Not sure I agree with my colleagues who say these things are adorable, but they are remarkable. You're looking at what are called mini cheetahs. They're frolicking around the campus of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Students are manipulating their every move with remote controllers, and while they're not as fast as real cheetahs, these only run about 9 miles per hour, they are hoped to help with deliveries one day or maybe emergency response. Want one? You may need to shell out around $10,000. But wait till you're spotted walking your cheetah. Some will say it's one cool cat, while others will call you a cheetah because your pet might have cat-like reflexes but run down with batteries, requiring a remote location and a recharge before it's ready to get back on its own 4 feet. Yeah, cheetah puns. You knew they'd have to be fast. And that's all we're feline-like saying on CNN.